The stars shone brightly against the darkness of space as Commander Lisa Reeves looked out from the bridge of the Earthship Guardian. After 15 years of service, this routine patrol near Neptune would be her last mission before retirement. She planned to settle down in the countryside, maybe grow some vegetables and finally get a dog. The thought made her smile as she checked the ship's systems one more time. "All readings normal, Commander," said Officer Paul Davis from his station. "Just another quiet day in the outer solar system." Lisa nodded. Humanity had yet to encounter any intelligent alien life, despite decades of sending signals into space. Some people still believed they were alone in the universe. Lisa wasn't one of them, but after years of patrol duty without incident, even she had begun to wonder. The alarm broke the silence like a thunderclap. Unknown object approaching from Sector 7, called Susan Green, the sensor specialist. Her fingers flew across the controls as she tried to get more information. It's huge, Commander, and fast." Lisa's training kicked in immediately. "Show me," she ordered, and the main screen filled with the image of something that shouldn't exist. The object looked like liquid metal, shimmering and shifting as if alive. It was at least 3 times the size of the Guardian, with no visible engines or windows or anything that might identify it as a ship, yet it moved with clear purpose toward them. "Send the first contact package," Lisa ordered. Earth had prepared for this moment for generations, carefully designed messages containing basic mathematics, simple images, and peaceful greetings in hundreds of human languages. The communications officer, Jack Mills, sent the package. Everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting. "Commander," Jack said after a minute, his voice shaking slightly, "we're receiving something." The speakers came to life with a sound that made everyone's skin crawl. It wasn't language, at least not any language humans could understand. It sounded almost like laughter, but wrong somehow, as if the concept of humor had been twisted into something dark. "Sir, it's changing course," Susan reported. "It's heading directly for Mars Colony." Lisa made her decision quickly. "Send an emergency message to Earth. We've made first contact, but something's wrong. Then set course to follow that thing. Whatever it is, we can't let it reach Mars without warning them." The Guardian wasn't built for speed, but Lisa pushed the engines to their limits. As they chased the alien object through the solar system, Earth scrambled every available ship to form a defensive line around Mars. The governments of Earth, usually slow to agree on anything, united in record time when faced with the unknown visitor. 3 days later, Lisa stood in a conference room on the Mars orbital station. Representatives from Earth's major nations sat around a large table, their faces grim. They had been joined, surprisingly, by a delegation of aliens who had arrived just hours after the mysterious object was detected. These new visitors called themselves the Galactic Confederation. Unlike the shifting metallic entity, they looked almost normal. Some like tall insects, others reptilian, and a few nearly humanoid. They spoke through translation devices and explained they had been monitoring Earth for decades, waiting for the right time to make contact. That time had come, sooner than expected. "You don't understand what you've done," said Zuth Kari, a tall mantis-like alien who led the Confederation group. Its voice came through the translator with a strange musical quality. "The entity that responded to your signals, it's not like us, not like you. It's something we've kept contained for millennia, and now, because of humanity's blind stumbling through the cosmos, it's free again." Ben Murray, Earth's chief diplomat, leaned forward. "What exactly is it?" he asked. Ben was a calm man in his 50s who had spent his career preventing wars between human nations. Now he faced something much bigger. "We call it the Void Weaver," Soothkari said. "It is ancient, older than any of our civilizations. It feeds unconscious thought, growing stronger with each mind it consumes. 5,000 years ago, it nearly destroyed half the galaxy before our combined forces managed to trap it in a pocket dimension near your solar system. And we let it out," Lisa said quietly. "Not intentionally," another alien said. This one looked almost frog-like with moist blue skin. "Your signals. They created a resonance pattern that weakened the prison walls. You could not have known." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humanity had accidentally released a galaxy-threatening monster, and now it was heading toward the most populated areas of the solar system. "Why is it coming to us specifically?" asked General Sam Roberts, head of Earth's United Defense Forces. The aliens exchanged looks that even humans could read as uncomfortable. "There is something about human consciousness that it finds attractive," Zuthkari finally said. "Your minds are different from ours. More chaotic, more contradictory. The Weaver is drawn to this complexity." "So we're what? Delicious?" Ben asked, his diplomatic calm cracking slightly. "In a way," the blue alien replied. "But there's more. Early readings suggest human minds might be poisonous to it over time. Like a drug it cannot resist, but that slowly harms it." General Roberts stood up. "Then we fight. If this thing wants to eat our people, we'll make sure it chokes on us." The meeting continued for hours as they formed plans. The Confederation offered technology and knowledge, while Earth provided ships and soldiers. Lisa found herself appointed as liaison between human forces and the alien allies. Her experience as the first to encounter the Weaver made her valuable, even as she still looked forward to that quiet retirement. 2 days later, the first attack came. The Void Weaver descended on Phobos Station, a research outpost orbiting Mars. By the time ships arrived to help, the station was empty. 300 people, gone without a trace. The structure itself remained intact, as if everyone had simply vanished at once. The recordings from the station showed the truth. The Weaver didn't just kill, it absorbed. Tendrils of what looked like dark lightning had reached through the walls, touching each person. In the final moments of the video, the victims didn't scream or fight. They smiled, as if seeing something wonderful. Just before they disappeared, Lisa watched the recording on the bridge of the Guardian, now upgraded with Confederation technology. Her retirement would have to wait. The galaxy had been at peace until humanity's arrival had unleashed this nightmare. Now it would be up to humans, the newcomers who had caused the problem, to help solve it. As the Guardian prepared to join the defensive fleet around Earth, Lisa looked out at the stars once more. They no longer seemed peaceful. Somewhere out there, the Weaver was growing stronger, learning from the minds it had taken, and it was hungry for more. The war had begun. 3 weeks after the first attack, Earth was no longer the same. Cities had become fortresses. Ships filled the sky. People looked up with fear instead of wonder. The news showed the same things each day. More missing people, more empty stations, more failed attempts to stop the thing they now all knew as the Void Weaver. Dr. Alan White hadn't slept properly in days. His lab in the Mars Colony underground complex was filled with screens, samples, and coffee cups. As head of xenobiology, a field that had been mostly theoretical until now, he suddenly found himself one of the most important scientists in the solar system. "Play it again," he told his computer. The screen showed the last moments from Europa Station before the Weaver attacked. 57 people lost. Alan watched their faces carefully as the dark energy touched them. "Freeze there," he said. The image stopped on the face of a young technician. Unlike the others who seemed entranced, this man's expression showed something different. Pain, resistance. "Computer, identify this person," Alan said. "Jake Wilson, age 28. Neurological researcher," the computer responded. Alan felt his heart beat faster. This might be the connection he was looking for. He pulled up Jake's medical records, scanning quickly through the data. "There it is," he whispered. Jake had a rare brain condition that affected his neural pathways. Different brain structure, different response to the Weaver. Alan pressed the emergency call button. "Get me a direct line to command. I've found something." 6 hours later, Alan stood before the Joint Human Confederation War Council. Commander Lisa Reeves was there, now leading the special task force assigned to study the Weaver. General Roberts sat at the head of the table. 3 Confederation representatives completed the group. "Our brains," Alan explained. pointing to the brain scans displayed on the wall. Something about human consciousness, its particular electrical patterns, is both attractive and toxic to the Weaver. We're like a drug it can't resist, but one that might ultimately harm it. How does this help us fight it? General Roberts asked. The Weaver doesn't just kill people. It preserves their consciousness, absorbs their knowledge. Alan showed new images from spy drones. The Weaver had built something in the rings of Saturn, a strange structure that pulsed with energy. It's keeping them somehow, learning from them, but certain brain types seem harder for it to process. The frog-like alien, now identified as Science Director Morrell, spoke up. This matches our ancient records. The Weaver grows by assimilating minds. It becomes smarter with each one. If it absorbs enough human minds, it could become too powerful for even our combined forces to contain again, added Zuthkari. A message interrupted them. The Void Weaver had been spotted near Jupiter, attacking a transport ship carrying refugees from the outer colonies. The ship's captain was sending live updates. The main screen came to life, showing Captain Kelly Winters of the USS Defiant. Her face was streaked with sweat and what looked like blood from a cut on her forehead. This is Captain Winters. We've engaged the entity while the transport attempts to escape. The ship shook violently. It's different this time. It's not just taking people, it's like it's testing us. The video showed what she meant. The Weaver had wrapped the transport ship in tendrils of dark energy, slowly pulling it apart while keeping the occupants alive. The Defiant fired weapons that the Confederation had provided, causing the tendrils to briefly retreat. "We've found a frequency that hurts it," Kelly reported. "Sending data now." The transmission cut out as the Defiant made another attack run. Everyone in the war room waited in tense silence. 20 minutes later, the news came through. Captain Winters had managed to save the transport and escape, though the Defiant was badly damaged. It was the first real victory against the Weaver. "It's HFY. Learning," Lisa said quietly. "But so are we." The meeting shifted to planning the next steps. Alan's discovery and Captain Winters' successful defense provided hope. The Confederation offered more advanced weapons based on the frequency the Defiant had found. Earth began working on shields using similar technology. Meanwhile, strange things started happening on Earth and Mars. People reported shared nightmares. Some woke up speaking languages they didn't know. Others claimed to hear voices calling them to the outer planets. Alan studied these reports carefully. The Weaver exists, partially outside normal spacetime, he explained to Lisa when she visited his lab the next day. It's not just a physical threat, it can influence minds from a distance. "Can we block it?" Lisa asked. "Maybe." Alan showed her a new device his team had created. "We're calling it a mind shield. It generates a field that should disrupt the Weaver's influence, but we need to test it." Lisa looked at the small metal disc. "You want volunteers to get close to that thing while wearing this?" "Yes, and I want to go with them." Lisa shook her head. "You're too valuable, Alan. We need you here. Nobody understands this technology better than I do. If something goes wrong, I need to be there to fix it." Their argument was interrupted by another emergency alert. The Weaver had changed tactics. Instead of attacking ships and stations, it had landed on Titan, Saturn's largest moon. It was building something bigger than before. Reconnaissance images showed thousands of missing humans moving like sleepwalkers, constructing a massive structure. They weren't dead, but they weren't fully themselves either. Their movements were coordinated as if they were all parts of a single organism. "It's creating a colony," Zuthkari said when shown the images. "This is how it begins to transform a region of space. Soon, it will produce offspring." The news hit the council like a physical blow. They had weeks, not months, to find a solution, before the Weaver could reproduce and spread beyond their ability to contain it. Alan's mind shield prototypes were rushed into production. The best pilots and soldiers were selected for a dangerous mission: get close enough to the Weaver's new colony to disrupt its control over the human captives. As the small fleet prepared to leave, Lisa found Alan in the hangar, wearing a combat suit. "The General approved this?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Alan shrugged. Not exactly, but I'm going anyway. These people need me. Lisa looked at him for a long moment, then handed him a weapon. Try not to die, Doctor. We're just starting to make progress. The ships departed the next day, carrying the first real hope of fighting back. As they disappeared into the darkness toward Saturn, reports came in of new nightmares spreading across Earth. In these dreams, people saw a future where stars went dark one by one as the Weaver's children spread through the galaxy. The war had entered a new phase. The nightmare was growing. The mission to Titan changed everything. Of the 5 ships that left, only 2 returned. But they brought back something more valuable than anyone had hoped for. 73 rescued humans and critical information about the Weaver's plans. Dr. Alan White had almost died. The mind shield devices worked better than expected, allowing the rescue team to get close to the colony without being detected. But when they tried to free the captured humans, the Weaver noticed them. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human experience. It doesn't think like we do, Alan explained from his hospital bed. His left arm was gone, replaced for now with a temporary medical unit until a proper replacement could be made. It exists partly in normal space and partly somewhere else. When we fought it, we were also fighting in that other place. The rescued people told similar stories. They had been conscious the whole time, trapped inside their own minds while the Weaver used their bodies. They felt connected to each other, sharing thoughts and memories in a vast network centered on the Weaver itself. Major Frank Collins listened carefully to these reports. As the leader of Earth's newly formed Psi division, he had been training soldiers with natural psychic abilities. Most people had laughed at the program when it started 6 months ago. Nobody was laughing now. We need to go back, Frank told the War Council. My team can establish a direct mental link with the Weaver. We might be able to disrupt it from the inside. General Roberts shook his head. We lost too many people already. I can't authorize another mission until we have better weapons. The argument might have continued, but a message from the Confederation changed everything. Their scientists had studied the data from the Titan mission and made a discovery. The Weaver is vulnerable when it tries to process too many human minds at once, explained Zuthkari. Your consciousness is complex in ways ours is not. The Weaver becomes distracted, overwhelmed by the contradictions and emotional depth of human thought. This information led to a new plan. Instead of fighting the Weaver directly, they would overload it with too much human complexity at once. The Mind Shield Protocol was expanded. Volunteers would be modified to serve as infiltrators, their brain patterns altered to make them even harder for the Weaver to process. Dr. Susan Porter took charge of the program. She was a neuroscientist who had studied under Alan D. before the war. Now, with Alan still recovering, she worked day and night to prepare the volunteers. What we're doing raises serious ethical questions, she admitted during a private conversation with Lisa. They sat in the observation room watching as the first group of volunteers underwent the procedure. We're changing their minds, their very sense of self. Lisa watched through the glass as the machines hummed around the sleeping volunteers. Will they still be themselves after? Mostly. They'll think differently, process emotions in new ways, but their core memories and personalities should remain intact. Should? Susan looked away. We don't have time for certainty, Commander. The Weaver is building more colonies. Jupiter's moons are already falling. Mars could be next. The first group of modified humans, 26 soldiers and scientists who passed the compatibility tests, were ready a week later. They called themselves the Odd Minds, a name that reflected their new way of thinking. They spoke in strange patterns and saw connections others missed. Frank Collins led the Odd Minds on their first mission. Their target was a smaller Weaver colony on Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. The operation was meant to test whether their modified minds could really confuse the Weaver as the theory suggested. The mission succeeded beyond expectations. The Odd Minds not only rescued 30 more captives but also discovered something unexpected. Humans who had been captured longest weren't simply controlled. They were being transformed, their consciousness partially preserved but rewired to serve as extensions of the Weaver itself. It's not just using us, Frank reported after returning. His eyes had a strange, gleaming quality that hadn't been there before. It's trying to become us, to evolve using human consciousness as a template. This discovery changed their understanding of what they faced. The Weaver wasn't simply a predator. It was attempting to enhance itself by incorporating human traits that it found valuable. The war entered its 6th month. Earth had become a planet dedicated to a single purpose: fighting the Weaver. Old conflicts between nations seemed small and distant now. Everyone worked together because they had to. The Confederation provided more advanced technology as the situation grew more desperate. Ships now carried weapons that could harm the Weaver by targeting its presence in both normal space and the strange dimension it partially inhabited. Susan Porter made another breakthrough. By studying the brain patterns of rescued captives, she found a way to temporarily disconnect someone from the Weaver's control. It wasn't perfect. The process was painful and sometimes left lasting damage, but it offered hope for those already taken. Major Collins and his odd minds continued their missions, pushing deeper into Weaver territory. Each time they returned, they seemed slightly different, speaking in more complex patterns, showing unusual abilities, understanding things that should have been impossible to know. "They're changing," Lisa said to Alan when he finally returned to work. They watched from the observation deck as the odd minds trained in ways that defied normal human limitations. Some could communicate without speaking. Others could sense the Weaver's presence from great distances. "We're all changing," Alan replied softly. "This war isn't just about survival anymore. It's about what humanity will become." The Weaver seemed to be changing too. Its attacks became more precise, more strategic. It began targeting communication systems and power plants instead of just taking people. Intelligence suggested it was learning human concepts like tactics and long-term planning. A new kind of battlefield emerged, one fought partly in physical space and partly in the realm of thought. The odd minds engaged the Weaver in both arenas, fighting to free captive minds while conventional forces attacked its physical structures. In his laboratory on Mars, Alan worked on a new theory. If the Weaver was incorporating human traits, perhaps it was also taking on human weaknesses. He studied reports from the odd minds' encounters, looking for patterns that might reveal a fundamental vulnerability. "Imagination," he said one night, the idea coming to him suddenly. "It can't fully process human imagination, particularly our capacity for paradoxical thinking." This insight became the foundation for a daring new weapon, one that might turn the tide of the war. As Alan gathered a team to develop what they called cognitive weaponry, news arrived that the Weaver had completed a massive new structure in orbit around Saturn. Whatever the Weaver was planning, it was nearly ready. Humanity would need to strike soon, or risk losing everything. The massive structure orbiting Saturn grew larger each day. Earth's best telescopes showed thousands of captured humans working on it like ants building a hill. The Weaver stayed at the center, a shifting mass of liquid-like metal and dark energy that pulsed with stolen thoughts. Dr. Alan White's team worked without rest to develop their new weapon. The idea was simple but hard to create. They would use paradoxes, ideas that contradicted themselves, as a kind of mental virus against the Weaver. The problem was how to deliver these paradoxes directly into the Weaver's network. "We need someone on the inside," Alan explained to the War Council. "Someone who can carry our weapon past the Weaver's defenses and activate it from within." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. Whoever volunteered would almost certainly not come back, at least not as themselves. Lieutenant Olivia Baker stood up. She was young, only 26, with short brown hair and steady eyes. As part of the second group of odd minds, her brain had already been modified to resist the Weaver's control. "I'll go," she said simply. General Roberts began to object, but Olivia continued. "My brother was taken in the first attack on Phobos. If there's any chance he's still alive and they're still part of that thing, I want to try to save him." The mission was planned carefully. Olivia would carry a special device, a psychic beacon designed by Alan's team. Once inside the Weaver's collective, she would activate it, creating a temporary blind spot in the Weaver's awareness. Through this blind spot, a strike team could enter the main structure. The night before the mission, Lisa found Olivia sitting, alone in the observation deck looking at the stars. "Are you scared?" Lisa asked, sitting beside her. Olivia nodded. Terrified, but also curious. The other odd minds who've made contact with the Weaver, they say it's not simply evil. It's something else. Something we don't have words for. That doesn't make it any less dangerous. No, but it makes me wonder what I'll find in there. Olivia turned to Lisa. "If I don't come back..." "Don't say that." "If I don't," Olivia insisted, "tell my parents I chose this. Tell them I wasn't afraid at the end." The mission launched the next day. One small ship carrying Olivia flew directly toward the Weaver's structure. As expected, it was captured almost immediately. The Weaver pulled the ship into its central mass and Olivia with it. For 3 days, there was no sign that the plan had worked. The strike team waited in their ships, hiding behind one of Saturn's smaller moons. Alan monitored the situation from the command center on Mars, watching for any change in the Weaver's energy patterns. On the 4th day, it happened. A flicker appeared in the Weaver's defenses, a small area where its awareness seemed to dim. The signal was brief, but it was enough. "That's it," Alan shouted. "She did it." Commander Ryan Taylor led the strike team. As the commander of the Special Operations Division, he had fought in more battles against the Weaver than anyone else. His ship was the first to enter the blind spot, followed by 4 others carrying 30-odd mines. What they found inside defied description. Later, Taylor would struggle to explain it to those who hadn't seen it. "Reality in there doesn't follow normal rules," he reported. "Thoughts become physical things. Memories form the landscape. We walked through cities built from childhood fears and oceans made of forgotten dreams." The strike team moved deeper into the structure, guided by signal pulses from Olivia's beacon. They fought through strange defenses, creatures made from nightmares and barriers formed of twisted logic. 3 team members were lost when they became trapped in a loop of repeated memories. At the core of the Weaver's vessel, they discovered its true nature. It wasn't a singular entity, but a parasitic network that had evolved to farm consciousness itself. The Weaver existed to grow, to learn, to absorb more minds and expand its understanding. And at the very center, they found Olivia. She wasn't alone. Thousands of partially absorbed humans floated in a sea of shifting metal and energy, their bodies, half transformed into something neither human nor Weaver. Olivia floated among them, her eyes open but seeing something beyond normal space. "She's still fighting," Taylor said to his team. "We need to place the charges and get out." The charges weren't explosives but devices designed by Alan's team. Containers, filled with specialized paradoxes and impossible mental constructs. Once activated, they would inject these directly into the Weaver's network. As they worked, Olivia spoke. Her voice came from everywhere at once, echoing strangely. "I can see it all now," she said. "The Weaver, it's lonely. The last of its kind from a universe that died long ago. It doesn't understand what it's doing to us. Consumption is its nature." Taylor placed the final device. "Olivia, we need to go. The charges will activate in 10 minutes. "I can't leave," she replied. Her body began to shift, parts of it becoming like the liquid metal of the Weaver. "I'm part of it now, but not lost, not gone, different." Taylor wanted to argue, to try to save her, but there was no time. The blind spot was closing. The team retreated, fighting their way back through the strange landscape as it collapsed around them. Only Taylor and 17 others made it back to their ships. As they fled, the devices activated. The effect wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of destroying the Weaver, the paradox weapon forced a kind of evolution. The entire structure shuddered and pulsed with new energy. The Weaver split apart like a cell dividing. Parts of it died, others transformed. In the confusion, thousands of captured humans were freed, their connection to the collective suddenly broken. Ships from Earth and the Confederation rushed in to rescue them. Not everyone could be saved. Many had been part of the Weaver too long, their bodies and minds too changed to return to what they had been. But they weren't hostile. They were something new. Back on Mars, Alan watched the readings with growing excitement and fear. It worked, but not how we expected. The paradoxes didn't kill it. They forced it to adapt, to change. For the first time in the war, communication became possible. A voice reached out through the confusion, broadcasting on all frequencies. It was Olivia's voice, but changed, layered with others. "We are the bridge," the voice said. "We exist between human and Weaver consciousness. Through us, understanding is possible." The war had reached a turning point. The nightmare was transforming into something no one had predicted. 1 month after the transformation of the Weaver, a new kind of peace settled across the solar system. It wasn't the same peace that had existed before. This peace had scars, memories of loss, and the constant presence of something alien. But it was peace nonetheless. The entity now called the Bridge orbited Saturn. Its structure changed from the threatening mass it had once been. Parts of it still flowed like liquid metal, but now mixed with recognizable human architecture, gardens, observatories, and living spaces that housed both fully human survivors and the changed ones who could no longer return to Earth. Amy Nelson was among the first recovered captives who could still function in normal human society. She had been a teacher before her capture on Europa. Now she served as an interpreter for the bridge, explaining its thoughts to humans who couldn't directly connect with it. "We understand now," Amy explained to the Galactic Council that had gathered on the Mars orbital station. Her voice was calm, but carried strange harmonics that hinted at her connection to something larger. The Weaver wasn't evil as we understand it. It was lonely, the last survivor from a universe that collapsed eons ago. It sought connection in the only way it knew how. The council chamber was filled with representatives from Earth and the Confederation. Commander Lisa Reeves sat beside General Roberts. Dr. Alan White and Dr. Susan Porter represented the scientific community. The Oddminds had their own delegation, led by Major Frank Collins. Their altered minds made them uniquely suited to understand, both humans and the bridge. "What happens now?" Lisa asked. "Can we trust that it won't revert to its old behaviors?" Amy smiled. "The old Weaver no longer exists. The paradox weapon didn't destroy it, it evolved it. Human imagination, our ability to hold contradictory ideas at once, forced a kind of mental growth. The bridge is something new with both Weaver and human elements." Alan stood up. His artificial arm gleamed in the station lights. "We've been studying the data from our contacts with the bridge. The remaining human consciousnesses within it aren't prisoners anymore. They're part of a network where thoughts and memories flow freely. Some have chosen to stay." "Chosen?" General Roberts asked, his voice sharp with disbelief. "Yes," Amy replied. "I was one of them for a time. It's beautiful in there. Different. Some humans find it more fulfilling than individual existence. Others, like me, preferred to return but maintain a connection." The rebuilding of the solar system began in earnest. Earth cities removed their defenses. Mars colony expanded. New settlements were planned for the moons of Saturn, close to the bridge but independent from it. The Confederation ships that had come to help gradually departed, though many aliens chose to stay and study this unprecedented situation. The bridge requested status as a protectorate of Earth, creating new legal and ethical questions that no one had answers for. On a quiet evening, 6 months after the transformation, Lisa stood in her new home in the countryside. She had finally gotten her retirement, though not the peaceful one she had imagined. As an advisor to the Bridge Relations Committee, she still attended meetings and helped shape policy. But she also had time for her garden and the dog she had adopted, a big, friendly mutt named Cosmos. Alan visited her that evening, bringing a bottle of wine and news from his research team. "We've been analyzing the communication patterns between the bridge and the Oddminds," he said as they sat on her porch watching the sunset. It's changing how we understand consciousness itself. The line between individual and collective minds isn't as clear as we thought. Lisa poured the wine. Is that good or bad? Neither. Just different. Change always is. Alan looked up at the darkening sky. The bridge has started sharing some of the Weaver's old knowledge, technology, science, philosophy from civilizations that died billions of years ago. Things that might help us avoid their mistakes. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Lisa asked the question that had been on her mind for months. Do you think Olivia is still in there? Still herself in some way? Alan nodded slowly. The bridge speaks with many voices, but hers is often the clearest. I think she found what she was looking for. Her brother, herself, something more. The bridge isn't just one thing anymore. It's many things existing together. 5 years after first contact, Earth received an invitation to join the Galactic Confederation as a full member. The Council held a special session on the neutral station orbiting Mars to discuss the offer. Representatives from all Earth nations attended, along with delegates from Mars Colony, the Odd Minds, and the Bridge. Ambassador Ben Murray, now older and wiser from his years of dealing with both aliens and the Bridge, addressed the Council. The galaxy was at peace before humanity crashed into your carefully ordered universe, he said to the assembled alien dignitaries. We brought chaos, yes, but also possibility. The nightmare you feared has transformed into something new, just as we have. The question now isn't whether the galaxy can return to what it was, but what we might all become together. The Confederation archives recorded this moment as the beginning of the second age of galactic civilization, one founded not on the elimination of difference, but on the productive tension between order and chaos, between ancient wisdom and new perspectives. In the rings of Saturn, the bridge continued to grow and change. Some days, if you listened carefully to the transmissions it sent, you could hear Olivia Baker's laugh mixed with thousands of others, humans, and something else, finding joy in their shared existence. Earth ships ventured farther into space, each carrying lessons from the Weaver War. They were more careful now, more aware of the hidden dangers and wonders that might lurk between the stars. But they were not afraid. Lisa sometimes looked up at the night sky from her porch, Cosmos sleeping at her feet, and thought about how strange life had become. The nightmare had ended, but the dream it inspired was just beginning. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or victims, but as bridges between what was and what might be. The peace that followed wasn't perfect, but it was theirs to build, one day at a time.